I say, first of all, good morning, salam alaikum. I think that an important issue that need to be considered carefully is that energy transition is not a static concept for many different reasons. It's not static from a geographical point of view. So energy transition in Italy is different from Egypt, different from Ireland. And then it's not also static from a, let's say, from a timeline point of view. The world has lived many different transitions depending on many different times. And I think this issue need to be considered in a very careful way once we want to bring some new way to consider this problem in a different way. And I hope, I'm sure that this new COP will bring a new way, good for Africa, good for the rest of the world, because if it's good for Africa, it's good for the rest of the world. Let me also say that probably I slightly disagree with some of information that have been proposed. I think you said that the beginning of the story was 1994. The beginning of the story, which is the first COP, the beginning of the story is probably 1899 when the IPCC was created. And giving a sort of answer to a previous colleague, I was part as a lead author of the IPCC, the second volume and the fifth volume. So I was not part of the last one, but I can tell you that definitely is a sort of document that need to be, it's a huge document, as you know, but need to be reconsidered, in my view, from scratch. Once the last report I was working chapter, I don't remember, 3 probably on industry. I wrote a page on energy efficiency, 2 pages actually, on energy efficiency in industry, in the cement industry, and I received 405,000 comments. And obviously, is not a way that the document can proceed. Then on the participation of people from Africa, I would have some considerations, but probably are for example, the volume 1 is probably the one we suffer more because there is just one person from Africa, and volume 1, I need to remind you, is the scientific basis of climate change. That's probably an issue of educational system, so providing scientists on climate, probably. The second is on mitigation, and I presume Africa has lots to contribute. The third one is on adaptation, which is even more crucial for the continent, for Egypt in particular. And by the way, I wish you all the best, since I was part of the organization of COP number, I don't remember, which was held in Milan. And then all COPs are not equal, as you rightly pointed out. COP 1 was basically useless. COP 2 was useless. COP 3 was Kyoto. The famous COP, I guess 15, which was the one which was held in Copenhagen, was also new as a Floppenhagen. So making a COP a successful story takes time, and I wish you all the best in the organization, because it's a pain in the neck, serious. It's a very complex organization, but I'm sure you will find the solution. If I may, just to conclude my short intervention, I would like to show you a graph that I cannot control from here, Federico, which is
yes.
I don't see the graph, by the way. So since I don't see the graph, I cannot comment the graph.
We are trying to project the graph now.
Okay. Yeah, but we can skip. I mean, for the sake of
Absolutely.
simplicity, we can skip. I would like to arrive to the graph in which there are some histogram showing what happened in the last, say, 100 years. This is important, I think, also to consider because it's the last consideration, because I said the transition is an issue that should be considered not in a static way. But this is important because 100 years ago, we tend to forget the story. 100 years ago, say 80% of energy demand, world energy demand, was wood and coal. Oil was basically non-existent, gas was non-existent at all, nuclear was non-existent, so on and so forth. In 1950 is the beginning of the oil era. As far as I remember, Ghawar in Saudi Arabia was discovered in 1932. So the story of oil that we know started in the US, but once moved to Saudi Arabia, and that's the story. Egypt as well, but in the 50s, you see there is a reduction of wood, increase in oil, huge increase in gold. The maximum in the oil we have in 1974, just before the oil crisis, and then as you can see, you pointed out the existence and the importance of natural gas, which is becoming a very hot issue. Particularly in those days in Europe, as you know, we are really concerned about natural gas from Russia. And in the year 2000, there is the beginning of modern, what are called modern renewables. That basically means solar. But you still can see that is in 2000, the energy transition is definitely not complete. It's a really tiny proportion, and also in 2018 there is no difference basically between 2000 and 2018. Obviously this is and probably there is another slide or another click exactly, because the previous one were shares, this one are quantities, and in terms of quantities, basically from 1919 to 2018, basically the energy demand is multiplied by 10. However, and I think this is an issue that you have to think about for organization of the conference. As you know, the fossil fuel content of total energy demand, so in other way, the sum of coal plus oil plus natural gas, was 80% of total demand 20 years ago, and still is 20% today. In other words, we had a lot of COPs, we had a lot of discussion, a lot of IPCC reports, but still fossil fuel, and of course this is important if you are considering climate change, as I consider a very, very serious issue. Climate change basically means that you have to reduce, to increase efficiency, so you have to reduce CO2 per unit, okay? So this CO2 per unit is not decreasing, was exactly 80% of the total in 20 years ago. It still is 80% of the total. And I think this is, this graph, as simple as can be a very starting point for a very long discussion about the meaning of several energy transition that would be possible. And of course, behind every single transition, there is a world and there is a society which is changed. Once we saw the increase, the increase of coal for the first industrial revolution. Once we saw an increase in oil when US started with the oil revolution, and then now with the renewable, even if of course are important from Denmark, but in general are still a tiny proportion of the total. And as you can see, coal is still a crucial, still plays a crucial role. So I think I can, as a first speaker, or as a first discussion, the first intervention, I could stop here and give the floor to Federico or to you, sir, to see how continue this, I hope, fruitful discussion.